In previous videos, I've talked about strategic failures, followed by what a successful business architecture should look like. This video presents alternative capabilities to execute on the successful business architecture. Which you do depends on the value streams you choose. Over 100,000 restaurants have closed and over 85,000 retail stores have closed. I have wanted to explore why, but more importantly, is there something that could have been done to save them? The top 44 retail stores closings account for 8,976 stores being closed. When you take into account the suppliers, the support people, and so on, the total number of people impacted is in the millions. Let's take a look at why these stores are being closed and what can be done to improve things. In this video, I am presenting a lot of alternatives, so I'm not going to have time to go into detail on any one of them. So let's take a look at these store failings. Let's try to see why some of these 180,000 stores are closing. So retail is changing. There's less foot traffic in the store. There's legacy infrastructure, the siloed model. We'll look at more of that in a minute. It reminds me of a friend of mine who was working with mainframe computers when PCs came into existence, and he had a line that says, "I can't trust a computer I can pick up." And that ties to the retail philosophy of "I can't trust a shirt I can't try on." And that moves us to online shopping with the inability of the retailers to respond quickly. And of course there's the virus, because that's all that needs to be said on that. The next thing around is shopping malls. And of course, in today's world, nobody has time to wander around in a mall, and so the malls themselves are failing dramatically. And of course, the customer themselves are changing. A lot of the people that are buying today grew up playing video games, and for them, buying online is just second nature to them. And also, there's different demographics involved with the customer, a lot of working from home versus working in an office environment, and eventually environmental concerns are all impacting the customer. The next one is unable to compete against the national giants. Basically, you can't compete against the national giants on their turf, so you have to find your own niche. On the other side, if you are a giant, then you have to keep your ego in check. You have to recognize that other people have great ideas and watch for these small startups. The next area is inventory. You can't try to be all things to all people. You have poor focus, or you have too much inventory, which means you have poor projections. And you can't compete with large stores with the same inventory because they can buy in much larger quantities than you can. The next area is the social world. That's an enormous area just into itself. It's an entire video on all of what that means. But basically, you want to be inclusive of everybody. The next area is cash flow. You must have sales to have the money to make money, and unemployed people have very limited resources. The next area is poor locations, just having your stores in the wrong location, basically having them close to each other when they're competing against each other. Or you did too quick an expansion by adding too many stores too quickly. The next area is store size. Sales per square foot for larger stores are down dramatically. That relates to the mall problem. Customers are moving to strip mall shopping centers where they can make quick stops to purchase selected items. The next area is poor focus. Basically, you're trying to do too many things for too many people. The next area I love to call buggy whips. This is you're trying to sell things that nobody wants to buy anymore. And this is kind of the key problem with things like stationery stores. So what is the one thing they all have in common? So what they all had in common was a lack of flexibility. Their priority should be to re-energize their organizations rather than to react to changes. Companies that made substantive changes fared better coming out of a downturn than those that didn't. And in the future, having the willingness to change future plans basically be able to change directions on a dime. And these retailers are not able to do that. So how did we get this way? What is the evolution of retail technology? So they started with one store, then eventually they added more and more stores, which led to the need for a common database so they could understand how the company was doing. So they created a silo for building this company-wide database. They then needed to be able to manage store inventories. And so they put a store inventory silo in place to handle that. Again, with multiple stores, you needed to optimize that by moving these into a warehouse model. And again, the warehouse was in its own silo. And the biggest mistake was the website, the online. In this case, they thought that the website was a flash in the pan. It was going to go away. So they created its own silo and thought that selling on the web was vastly different than selling in the store. So they created their own inventory for the website. And now they come into the problem with the modern buy online, pick up in the store world. To start with, one needs an underlying technical architecture. The modern version is a microservice version, where an application is broken into a set of services. These services are connected through a network where security and other things exist. These services then communicate with each other with a set of canonical messages. This is where the retail standards available at omg.org/retail exist, and they cover almost 90% of all messages you'll ever want to communicate between applications. The next piece of the puzzle is the choreography, and there are a couple of different ways to do that. All of this then exists in the cloud. That way it can be almost anywhere and dynamically scaled where needed. In addition to common messages, one needs a common retail data model to make sure everyone talks the same language. This helps to solve the common problem where one person calls something for sale an item and someone else calls it a product. In today's world, we have to incorporate information from devices. So the IoT world gets brought into the equation. And when you put all this together, you end up with something called unified commerce. It's a concept where anyone and everything connected to a customer shares information about that customer. And finally, to organize all of this is a business process model. I have another course that I'm going to be producing shortly, which will delve in deeper in each of these areas. So now that you have a technical architecture in place, you have to have a process architecture in place. And that also has to be based on this agile microservices world. And that is the heart of the interactive virtual unified retail model, or the IVRM model. There's another video that goes into the details about each of this. But what happens is it allows you to take your business strategy, focus it through value streams, identify the processes, the people, and the architecture necessary to execute that value stream, and the business intelligence necessary to monitor that and making sure you stay tightly focused to what the people at the top want. And then there's a new one bringing in human capital, so that human capital is an integral part of all of this. Next, we want to adapt the customer experience. First, you want to appeal to the shopper. With shoppers versus consumers. Shoppers are people who come in, look around, touch things, go away, and eventually they may come back and actually buy it and turn it into a customer. So you have to support knowledgeable shoppers. Shoppers today know as much as salespeople. They've done their own research online before they even get there. Now, in-store, you can provide deep product expertise. That is, help consumers decide what to buy and explain why it makes sense for them. In addition, provide a unique product education. That is, you help consumers learn how to use the product better. And you want to do this over time to drive repeat visits, not just during the moment of purchase. You also want to be able to provide this capability digitally. Some 70% of buyers say they prefer digital interactions. Video conferences and live chats are helping companies seal the deal. Traditional phone calls are now a thing of last resort. Next, you want to personalize relevant suggestions. The right message at the right moment is the next level in customer service. It can quickly and easily turn intent into action. Your shoppers expect you to know what they need, what they like, but more importantly, what they do not like. Next, mobile devices drive traffic to the stores. On the outside of the store, they use them for searching for the store name or category. Then they get a map with directions, a phone number, or you might even add special offers that match their location. On the inside, you help them search the aisles for an elusive item. Mobile could be a map, a shopping list, a personal shopper, even a location of the nearest salesperson, and a product identifier. Next, you want to watch social media influencers' opinions. This is huge. These opinions carry a lot more weight now than ever. In fact, there's a whole video on all of that. Next, you want to experience the item online to get customers excited about the product. There's no replacement for holding, feeling, and inspecting a physical product on a store shelf or storeroom floor. But to do that online using interactive videos, 360 views, gestorial controls are a few ways that you can make these products alive on the customer screen. You want to focus customer brand loyalty. Customers were made from the pandemic with entirely new brand preferences or lower overall brand loyalty. How they leverage exclusive brands and private labels to become destinations for consumers is the future for retailers. Next one is to provide same-day delivery. This is the distribution revolution. Last mile delivery options include store pickup, curbside, drive-through models, same-day delivery. Shipping free of charge to the most loyal and profitable customers is another capability. Or your third-party distribution systems are evolving to be able to manage this for you. And you could even sell this distribution infrastructure as a service that you have for other retailers. The next area is adapting demographics. The diversity programs have existed since the 1970s. I'm not an expert in this area, and I'm sure it has some need for improvements. But you need to understand the preferences, needs, and attitudes of the growing segment such as blacks, Hispanic, baby boomers, millennials, women, men, etc. This is especially important in understanding individual consumers and customizing offers in a one-on-one basis. Adapt technology. This will be a critical part of everyone's new future. Make sure the capabilities you choose map to the value streams identified to support your business strategy. Agile architecture. One of the most important things to add in is the agile architecture. Flexibility is critical today in order to change directions on a dime. This is especially true since we've seen what happened with the virus. Internet of Things. You want to be able to make sure your devices can communicate to you about what is happening. In today's modern home, things like Alexa help customers purchase items. This will dramatically expand to virtually include everything. Can you say Jetsons? In a store, you will want to leverage the knowledge supplied by all of the devices embedded all over. Unified commerce. This is where everything comes together to provide a common support to your customer. All of your sources of interactions are communicating not only with your customers, but with each other. Artificial intelligence. It's about what the customer is looking for. What are their desires? And help them with their purchases. Robotics. Are robotics in your future? You bet they are. It depends on where you are, the retailer, where you're going, and what you're going to do with them. New payment models. Bitcoin sure changed the financial market, and there will still be more to come. Last mile delivery. This is an interesting one. How are you going to get your products to your customers seamlessly without their involvement? Autonomous cars. Autonomous cars, you have the customer's shopping list. Your robots have gone around the store and picked the items. You've moved it out to the last mile delivery, and the customers decided they want you to put it in their autonomous car. You have to find it, properly load it, and tell it to return home. Then finally pay for it with one of these new payment models. Virtual assistants. They're showing up all over the place. They provide intelligent communications to your customer by leveraging artificial intelligence and the unified commerce model to help your customer decide what it is they want to buy. Facial recognition. If you are able to identify your customers as they come into your store and link that up using artificial intelligence to their unified commerce model, you are able to help guide them through the store to buy the products they want. Video analytics. Being able to leverage the video content you have to figure out the best way to optimize your store to improve sales is a critical component of this. On top of this, video analytics has a lot of other uses. So as you can see, there are a lot of new options that are coming around with respect to technology. You can spend a lot of time and money doing these things that are of no value to your company, but are really cool technology-wise. So be sure to properly focus and justify them on your value stream. So let's talk about adapting your business models. First and most important, you have to focus on strategy. You have to make sure that the people at the bottom of the chain, as well as the people at the top of the chain, are all going in the same direction, following the same set of value streams tied to your strategy. You need to improve hygiene, especially in this new virus world. You need to look into cashierless store. Does that make sense for your world? It's a fascinating idea. Of course, buy online, pick up in the store is a given. You have to be able to do that. Buy online, ship in store is an interesting one as well. That helps you with your inventory management. Direct to consumer is another option that can help you with your inventory management. Returns management is the next major thing to think about, and returns are a huge hit on your bottom line. So how do you do it effectively? And we've mentioned inventory management. That's very important. We've seen several of the people who sold online but didn't have their inventory system up during the off hours. Basically, they closed at the end of the day. And so they were selling things they didn't have in inventory. The supply chain, optimizing and dealing with the supply chain is the next kind of thing that you want to look at for your business model. Security is very critical, especially using all of this stuff that's all connected through the internet. You've got to make sure that you've got the proper kind of architecture in place to secure things so they don't gather information they're not supposed to have. Self-driving cars are coming, and in fact, parts of them are already here. As you can see, you've got a car that will park itself. Social retailing is another key thing that you need to be able to bring into your business model. Collaborations are an interesting one, where you work with another retailer to sell things out of their inventory that you don't have in your inventory. Reducing costs, that's of course is a given. Reducing your footprint, that's tied to having too much floor space, and what do you do with the extra space? And of course, improving throughput is about optimizing all of these things to make sure they operate as fast as possible. Customers don't want to wait for months to get products. They want them now or tomorrow at the latest. If appropriate, you want to adopt a direct-to-consumer model, which means instead of going from the manufacturer through the retailer to get your brand to the customer, you go direct to the customer. Now this means that you've got direct communications with your customer, which helps you form a better loyal customer brand relationship. It helps you prevent the loss of customer data. You get that information directly. You save extra costs by cutting out the intermediary, the retailer. and you get the current information about your products directly to the customer. And then it helps you maintain your reputation as a brand. So this is about brands to customers, not necessarily retailers to customers. The next area is adapting supply chains. Supply chains today are broken primarily because of the virus, but because, in part, they're not diversified. The virus has demonstrated how important it is to have a resilient supply chain that can adapt quickly and continue to deliver during times of disruptions. Building resilience is a matter of establishing contingencies, engaging in flexible resource planning, and in some cases, adding redundancy for critical products in your system. Shopper is a superset of customer. This includes those who wander around your website building a shopping basket but not buying anything. Shoppers' use of the online channel has increased the need for discretionary product categories. Expect shoppers to reduce many high-traffic in-person activities in the future, including going to the mall. Customers are becoming more mindful about how they're spending, so they're looking for more ways to save money when shopping, and they're taking steps to be more disciplined in their choices. In addition, because of the virus, consumers are becoming more comfortable without trying products first in the physical store. Just as for sales, online has to be an integrated part of your supply chain process. In physical brick and mortar stores, the inventory turnover ratio has decreased. This leads to higher capital requirements and increased markdown if the retailers are driven to sell off extra inventory at the end of the season. So this is where inventory management becomes a critical part of the supply chain. To leverage the excess store footprint that they now have because of the omni-channel, they have created state-of-the-art mini distribution centers to fill in this excess footprint. On the supplier side, they're having to diversify their supply chains to mitigate dependencies on geographically concentrated suppliers. Online has caused a lot of problems with supply chains. Online is more expensive than traditional brick and mortar logistics because inventory must be held in the network. To help address the combined challenges of fulfillment costs, service requirements, and productivity improvements, retailers have sought to keep inventories closer to the customer, the mini distribution center. And as such, that's helped reduce transportation costs. Retailers are now starting to collaborate even with competitors for delivery of goods to their customers. So they're exploring various kinds of partnerships with each other. It's really good if it's a non-competing retailer who could enter a consortium-like partnership to use each other's distribution centers or common 3PL provider to achieve wider geographical reach with little additional capital expense. Retailers have historically forecast demand based on sales in prior years, but the current crisis has upended the underlying assumptions, rendering these historical statistics less effective. The inability to predict demand has a snowball effect on the retailer's ability to hold the right amount of inventory, plan seasonal merchandises, and avoid unnecessary markdowns. So they're using AI to predict optimal distribution routes, inventory levels, and allocations. An interesting concept has emerged. Retailers have borrowed a concept from the airline industry by creating control towers. They can now quickly reallocate inventories, analyze and debottleneck warehouse operation, and rebalance the timing of their vendors. To help make all this work, a new concept that includes people in the process of selling. This has nothing to do with the traditional HR functions, but ties the people, the individuals, directly to the business architecture. The goal is to create a high-performance culture that transitions from a team that has high-performance expectations into a team that delivers consistent monthly overachievement of planned results. The adaptive workforce operationalizes the critical success factors in order to close the gap of what is expected and what is actually delivered. Thank you. I am the Wizard of Pod. My name is Richard Halter. Please check out my book, Art for Retail, using technology to turn your consumers into customers and make a profit. It's available on Kindle. Thank you.